When an animal watches the one it loves most die, does it feel anything close to what you would feel? For most of human history, we told ourselves the answer was no. That grief belonged to us alone, a special burden of the human heart, proof that we felt things animals simply could not. They might react, we said, but they do not truly mourn. They do not understand loss. They just move on. But out in the wild, far from any human trying to explain it away, animals have been doing things that are very, very hard to call anything other than grief. An elephant standing in silence for hours over a pile of bones, a mother carrying a body she cannot bring herself to set down. And the deeper scientists look, the more that comfortable old story falls apart. Because grief, it turns out, may not be a human invention at all. It may be something far older and far more widely shared than we ever wanted to believe. And what that reveals about animals and about the nature of love itself changes everything. Let's begin with the animal that has shown us this most clearly and most hauntingly. The elephant. Across decades of careful observation in the wild, researchers have watched elephants do something that stops people cold. When a herd comes across the body of a dead elephant, or even just its scattered, sun-bleached bones, they do not simply walk past. They stop. They grow quiet. And then they approach, and they begin, very gently, to investigate the remains with their trunks, touching and caressing the bones, lifting them, turning them over, running the sensitive tips of their trunks along the surface of a skull, sometimes carrying a bone away with them. They will linger at the site for a long time. And remarkably, they seem to do this specifically for elephant remains. Show an elephant the bones of a buffalo or a rhino, and it shows passing interest. Show it the bones of another elephant, and the entire mood changes into something solemn and searching. When a matriarch dies, her herd has been seen standing over her body, touching her, refusing to leave, returning to the place again and again in the days and even years that follow. Whatever is happening inside those enormous heads, it is not indifference. It looks, to anyone who watches it, unmistakably like mourning. And then there is the story that broke hearts all over the world, out in the cold water of the Pacific. In 2018, a female orca gave birth, and her newborn calf lived for only half an hour before it died. And what she did next, no one who saw it has ever forgotten. She refused to let the body sink. She began to carry her dead calf with her, balancing it on her head, on her back, pushing it up through the water again and again as it slipped, keeping it with her as she swam. And she did not do this for an hour, or for a day. She carried her dead calf for 17 days, across more than 1,000 miles of open ocean, in what observers could only describe as a tour of grief. When the body would slip away, she would dive and retrieve it. Her pod stayed with her, and orcas are not alone in this. Dolphins, too, have been seen supporting the bodies of their dead, nudging a lifeless companion toward the surface, staying beside it, unwilling to leave it behind. A creature that would not let go of the one she loved, long after holding on could change anything at all. Tell me that is not grief. Look closer to our own branch of the family, and it gets harder still to watch. Among chimpanzees and other primates, our closest living relatives, a grieving mother will sometimes carry the body of her dead infant for days, and in some cases weeks, continuing to groom it, to hold it, unable to accept what has happened. Researchers have watched whole groups of chimpanzees fall silent and subdued around a dying or dead member, gathering close, gently touching the body, behaving in ways no one has seen in any other context. And there is one case, documented by Jane Goodall, that is almost unbearable. A young chimpanzee whose mother died, and who simply could not survive the loss of her. After she was gone, he stopped eating. He withdrew from the others. He returned to the empty spot where he had last been with her, curled up there, and within a matter of weeks, he was dead too. He had been healthy. There was no disease that explained it. The most honest description anyone could give was that he died of grief. that a creature can be so bonded to another, that losing them takes the will to live, is not something we should have ever assumed belonged only to us. And it is not only the giants and our close cousins. The signs of grief turn up in surprising corners of the animal world. Crows have been seen gathering around one of their own that has died, dozens of them arriving, calling loudly, attending to the body in what people have long called a crow funeral, though scientists still genuinely debate whether this is mourning, or a way of learning about danger, and honesty demands we hold that uncertainty. Giraffes have been observed standing over a dead calf for days. Magpies have been seen laying grass beside a dead companion. Across the most social, most intelligent species on Earth, again and again, the same theme appears. Death is not met with blank indifference. It is met with attention, with disruption, with something that looks a great deal like sorrow. There is now an entire field of science devoted to studying how animals respond to their dead, because there is simply too much of it to keep waving away. Now, in the spirit of honesty, we have to give the skeptics their due, because their challenge is a fair one. They warn us about reading our own feelings into animals, about anthropomorphism. Maybe the elephant is only curious. Maybe the orca mother is confused, running on instinct. Maybe the crows are just assessing a threat. We genuinely cannot climb inside an animal's mind and prove what it feels, and any honest look at this has to admit that. But consider what these behaviors actually have in common. They are specific. They are repeated, across individuals and across generations. They are often costly, even dangerous, like a starving mother spending her strength to carry a body, or a young chimp losing the will to eat. And they cluster, overwhelmingly, in exactly the species that form the deepest and most lasting social bonds. That is not the pattern you would expect from simple confusion or mere curiosity. It is the pattern you would expect from grief. And the burden of proof has quietly shifted. The question is no longer whether we can prove animals grieve. It is whether we can keep pretending they do not. And once you sit with that, you arrive at the realization that ties all of it together, and it is a beautiful one. Notice which animals grieve. It is not all of them. The ones who mourn their dead are the ones who form deep, lasting, loving bonds in life. The elephant, the orca, the chimpanzee, the wolf, the most social, most attached creatures of all. Grief shows up precisely where love runs deepest and nowhere else. Which means grief is not some separate, tragic accident. It is the shadow that love casts. It is the cost, the receipt, the unavoidable other side of the very thing that makes these creatures bond so fiercely in the first place. You cannot have one without the other. The capacity to grieve is simply the capacity to love, seen from the far side of a loss. So the grief of animals is not evidence of how strangely human they are. It is evidence of something much larger. It is evidence of how widespread, how deep, and how real love is, all across the living world. And that is where this quietly turns into something about you. Because the next time grief takes hold of you, and it will, the next time you lose someone and feel like the weight of it might break you, understand what you are actually doing. You are not carrying a uniquely human burden, set apart from the rest of nature. You are doing the oldest thing in the world. You are standing with the elephant at the bones. You are swimming beside the orca who would not let her calf go. You are sitting with the chimpanzee who could not leave her child. Your grief does not separate you from the animals. It is the very thing that binds you to every creature that has ever loved and lost, stretching back across millions of years. It may be the most universal language there has ever been, spoken by elephants and whales and apes and crows and humans alike, all of us saying the same wordless thing, that this one mattered, that I do not want to let go. So, do animals grieve the ones they love? The most honest answer the evidence allows is yes. Something real, something deep, in every species, built to love deeply. And the reason is the simplest, and the heaviest thing there is. Grief is what love looks like when the one you love is gone. The depth of the mourning only ever measures the depth of the bond. The orca carried her calf 1,000 miles for the very same reason you cannot stop thinking about the one you have lost. Because love in any species does not come with an off switch. And so we are not alone in our grief. We never were. Every elephant returning to the bones, every mother who would not let go, is telling us the same true thing. That to love is to one day grieve, and that this ache, as much as it hurts, is not a flaw in us, and not a curse upon us. It is the price of the single most valuable thing any living creature is capable of: love. So somewhere out there, even now, an elephant is running its trunk over a bone it seems to recognize, and a whale is diving after a body it cannot bear to lose. They are not so different from you on the hardest day of your life. They are grieving, in the only way they know how, the ones they loved. And when your own turn comes, as it comes for everything that breathes and bonds and loves, you will not be doing something lonely, or strange, or weak. You will be joining the oldest and largest company there has ever been. Every creature that ever loved enough to mourn, which, it turns out, is so many more of us than we ever dared to believe.